Gary Bernier, and I have the extreme pleasure of interviewing Stephen Semple today. And what I'm going to be interviewing him on is the tipping point of retail. So Stephen, my first question to you is, what is this tipping point thing that you want to talk to people about? What is a tipping point?
So a tipping point happens when something's going along and it's kind of minor and it's kind of a background thing, and it grows slowly and it grows slowly and it grows slowly. Then it hits this point where explosion explodes and takes off, and suddenly something moves from being a minor thing to being a mainstream thing. And so that's the tipping point. The tipping point is the moment where that change happens and the growth curve goes from being like this to being like this.
Is that the S-curve that we're always talking about? From the technology industry, I'm familiar with the S-curve, but are you saying that it's applying right now to this particular situation in retail?
Yeah, and the S-curve is applied to technology. The S-curve is applied to things like radial tires. The S-curve has happened over and over and over and over again, and is well documented. And if you want to read about it, the book, The Diffusion Innovation, 500-page book that goes into huge depth on it. But yes, it's the whole idea of the S-curve, that's just the way things grow. And it actually becomes pretty predictable.
Interesting. So what research have you bumped into that makes you think we're at this tipping point for retail?
So the tipping point occurs when something hits 12 to 15% market penetration. That's where the tipping point lives. And when we go back to December of this year, so December 2019, and this data comes from Visa, MasterCard, and Facebook, all confirm about the same number, 15% of retail sales were conducted online. So in December of this year, for the first time ever, we hit the tipping point. The tipping point happened.
So is anything that we're currently dealing with in our, we're recording this April 2020, providing fuel to that fire, being that little bit of an accelerant? Is it like providing that spark?
Yeah, if anything, one could argue this change is going to happen faster in terms of the acceptance of online retailing because of the events that are happening today. People who've never shopped online before are shopping online. People who shopped online are shopping online more. We're getting used to this idea of buying online, driving to the store and picking it up. The world has changed, and the longer this goes, the more this becomes the new habit. One could argue that not only are we at the tipping point, but we're at the tipping point right when this massive fuel has been added to this fire of change.
Cool. So where does that lead us now? What part of the S-curve are we about to take a journey on, and how long is that going to last?
Well, if you're looking at the S-curve, the prediction is this. The amount of time it takes to go from 0 to 15% is the same amount of time it takes to go from 15% to maturity, which is around 85%. So the first online transaction happened 25 years ago. And then a few years later, Amazon opened and eBay opened and PayPal was developed and all this stuff happened. But the first transaction was 25 years ago. It's 25 years from 0 to 15, which means 25 years from 15 to 85%. But not only that, it means about a dozen years from now, 50 to 60% of transactions will be occurring online. And if anything, this might happen faster.
Cool. Can you give me an example or two of some businesses that you can see in the marketplace right now that are poised to take advantage of this, that people can look at as models?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because just because transactions are conducted online doesn't mean there's no use for brick and mortar. And there's some interesting companies right now that are combining the experience too. So one, for example, is Canada Goose. So Canada Goose makes $1,000 puffy coats, winter coats, and are actually really popular with millennials. If you're on a university campus today, you see tons of these coats. So here's what happens. When you go to a Canada Goose store, they have no inventory for sale. No inventory for sale.
The entrance of the store is called the crevasse. It literally means deep crack in a glacier. As you walk, it sounds as if the glass is cracking under your feet. The walls are made to look and feel like rock, and you can hear above the soundtrack of the Arctic. Now you're in the gear room. You're going to get a brief explanation of the merchandise, and you're going to choose the gear that's most appropriate for you and how you deal with cold, and then you're going to take it inside the cold room.
Nature won't stop for you.
Now you're in the cold room. This is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but can get as low as -4 degrees. It's meant to simulate Arctic conditions. Well, Canada Goose does have other cold rooms. This is the only one that has actual snow.
What's really important is the experience and to be experimental and to try new things, especially in this day and age where, as we all know, retail is changing.
If the Canada Goose Journey store did its job, you'll actually leave empty-handed. There's no inventory here, but you can come to one of these kiosks, pick out the item that you like, and it can be delivered to your home the same day or the next day if you live right here in the Toronto area.
What's our biggest frustration when we go to a store? Oh, geez, we don't have your size. Guaranteed your size is always there.
And the color and that you need to make your decision.
Right.
I just have to say, for our Southern Wizard of Ads partners, yes, you go out of the cold in the middle of winter into a shopping mall that's heated, to go into a store to put a winter coat on, to go into the freezer inside the store to try it on and make sure it keeps you warm. I just got to put that out there, that's their bold idea. And I just find that hilarious, but it's working like mad for them. So Steve, what's the other example you were going to lead into?
Well, and the other thing too, just going back to it, think about how much easier it is for them to manage inventory. I don't have to manage inventory for 6 different stores.
One
Single
distribution
inventory,
center.
6 stores, better shopping experience, right? Casper Mattress, huge online mattress company, is now opening stores because what they recognize is people still want to lay down on the mattress. But do they have mattresses in the store? No.
Not that you can buy.
Not that you can buy. It is still shipped to your home. But what they've done is they've said the brick and mortar is there to support the online. It's not the online is there to support the brick and mortar. So there's still a place for brick and mortar, but it's changed.